This will be for the con assignment, making appropriate scatter plots. Okay, it says a bus company wanted to know if the number of complaints they received was a function of the number of buses it ran. The company carried out a study comparing the average number of buses per hour for different days and the number of complaints that it received on those days. Here are the results. So you can certainly read this write-up if you want to. Some people might not have to, but if it helps you, it may help you to read it to determine which variable is X and which variable is Y. Okay, we know that if something is a function of X, okay, that's basically like Y equals. If we say something is a function of X, all right? So if it says in the write-up, function of, you know that the terms or category following that phrase, function of, will be your X variable. Okay, so here it says function of the number of buses. Okay, so we already know now that the number of buses is going to be X. All right, so you can see that right here. Average number of buses per hour is going to be your X variable. All right, so that would make the number of complaints the Y variable. So the write-ups might help you in that sense. All right, now it says, all of the scatter plots below display the data correctly, but which one of them displays the data best? By convention, a good scatter plot uses a reasonable scale on both axes and puts the explanatory variable on the x-axis. All right, and that makes sense. The x-axis, which should be the average number of buses, because how many number of buses per hour is what would possibly affect the number of complaints, not the other way around. All right, so let's take a look here. We want the one where X is the average number of buses. All right, A, B, C, or D. So X needs to be the average number of buses. All right, so it's definitely not graph A. It's not going to be graph A. All right, possibly B. And let's see, we want X to be average number of buses. So it's definitely not going to be C, because the x-axis on C is number of complaints. Okay, so I'm eliminating A and C. And now the other thing that makes us choose the correct graph, a good scatter plot uses a reasonable scale. Let's see. So the x-axis, or average number of buses, should run from 2 to 7.25. Let's check out the x-axis there. Okay, we said it's not A or C. Now this one, it starts at 0, but it goes way past 7.5. So now, as a result, all the data points are bunched up on the lower end of the graph. So that is no good. Okay, so it's not answer B. All right. Now, as a final check, I'm saying it's D by process of elimination. As a final check, see graph D. It starts at 0 and it goes up a little bit past 7. Okay, and that's what we want for average number of buses, because you can see average number of buses goes a little past 7. All right, so it's definitely answer D. All right, you might not even have to look at it in a numerical sense. All right, you can just look at it graphically. This one, the data points are all bunched together. And on answer D, they're spread out nicely across the graph. So you can use that as a clue as well. All right, so let's see here. Meteorologists want to investigate if average low temps is a function of latitude. Okay, so it says function of I know that latitude is going to be for the x-axis. All right, so here's my latitude. Those are going to be the x values, and that would make the low temps the y values. All right, so looking at the graphs, I want to make sure that latitude is for the x-axis. Let's see. Okay, so graph A is okay for latitude. Graph B does not have latitude for the x, so it's not graph B. And moving along, here we have latitude for x, that's okay. For graph D, we wanted latitude for x, we don't have it, it's not D. Okay, so we're going to look at A and C now because we know it's not B or D. If you look at graph A, the points are spread out nicely over the graph, indicating that they used a good scale for the x-axis. If you look at C, they're all bunched up, okay? So it's definitely not C. And there you go. That leaves graph A. All right.